Hi, I'm Beth Barnett, and I'm pitching Red Skies to Netflix. Red Sky at morning, sailor take warning. It's a line. It's part of an old proverb, a warning. It comes before proof, before evidence, before anyone can tell you what's coming. And that's the entire premise of the show. What does it cost a woman to trust what she knows when the world demands proof? That's the question Red Skies is built around. A woman who knows something is wrong before she can prove it. And she lives in a world that keeps asking her to justify what she feels with evidence that she doesn't have. It's a question that's personal to me, and I think it's personal to every woman who's ever been right about something that no one believed until it was too late. Red Skies is a serialized mystery drama. I'm pitching 8 episodes for the first season. The show begins with a missed phone call, and it ends somewhere that no one expects. When I started developing this concept, I kept coming back to 2 shows, Sharp Objects and Ozark. They both live in that space where family secrets and rural landscapes create pressure and tension. And they both center on women who are smarter than a lot of the people around them, and both women pay a price for it. They're both built devoted audiences who couldn't stop watching. And Red Skies lives in that space between them. It's a new show that the audiences for both shows are already waiting for. Red Skies is set in rural Michigan, specifically in St. Clair County, Michigan. And this is the actual property where the show will be filmed. It's Veronica's home. She chose to live here specifically because no one would know her. She built a private life on 10 acres with a pond that she loved. She walked a stone path every morning that led down to her pond. She had trees, wildlife, privacy, and silence. This is the actual landscape where the story takes place, the actual path. She died on her 63rd birthday alone on that property, and no one in St. Clair really knew her. That was part of the problem. In Red Skies, the setting is part of the show, it's part of its atmosphere, it's the pressure, it's the place where secrets can survive for decades because no one is close enough to even ask questions. I want to be clear about what kind of show Red Skies is and what kind of show it isn't. It's not a procedural, there are no crime labs, no badge. No one is officially investigating anything. There's a woman in her mother's house, and she's going through a lifetime of memories, trusting what she feels. The tone is intimate, atmospheric, unhurried. The camera lives close to Isabel's face and close to the landscape. The story itself moves the way that grief moves, slowly and then all at once. There's horror in Red Skies, but it's more unsettling than it is scary. Isabel has a gift, but nothing in this show is supernatural. There are no ghosts, no monsters, no monsters in the traditional sense. But there's something scarier, her reality, which is completely relatable. The discovery that she doesn't truly know the people around her, her learning that the person she loved most was also maybe someone that she didn't fully know. And every viewer who has ever lost someone and then found something unexpected, a letter, a photograph, maybe a text message, a name they didn't recognize, they know exactly what she feels like. And Red Skies takes that feeling and gives it somewhere to go. I mentioned Sharp Objects and Ozark earlier, and I want to be specific about why these 2 shows, why not others. Sharp Objects gives us the gothic intimacy of a mother daughter story that is set in a landscape that feels beautiful but threatening at the same time. A woman returning to a place she left, finding secrets she wasn't prepared for, a past that refuses to stay buried. Ozark gives us layered family secrets. They stack up across the seasons, a rural landscape that isolates its characters, and Wendy, a woman whose intelligence and instinct consistently outpace everyone around her. Red Skies borrows from them both, taking their emotional DNA to build something new. The mother daughter intimacy of Sharp Objects, except Veronica and Isabel loved each other completely. They're best friends, and that makes her loss even more devastating. The sustained tension and the consequences of Ozark, except the crime isn't financial. The crime is silence, the secrets that Veronica kept to protect her daughters, which Isabel now has to uncover and navigate alone. Red Skies live in the space between these shows. It's a space that Netflix already knows. It makes relevant and lucrative television, and it's a space where hit TV shows are. Here's where the show begins. Isabel Voss drives through the night from Virginia to Michigan, not because Veronica called, but because she didn't. Isabel has a bad feeling. Without evidence, she knows that something is wrong. They talked every single day. The calls were the only structure in either of their days, and sometimes they lasted for hours. When her mother didn't call, when she didn't answer the phone, she just knew. She didn't wait. She didn't call 911. She just got in her car and she drove through the night. She didn't even tell her boyfriend, Marcus, that she was leaving. They spoke briefly on the phone, but she was already on the turnpike. He assumed she was home. She let him assume. She told him after the fact. Isabel has learned that asking for permission to trust herself is a conversation she doesn't have time for. She arrives on Monday morning. Veronica's alone, but she's gone. They had so many plans. They were supposed to be moving someplace warm. We'll wait until next year, they said. Isabel had almost finished school. Next year never came, and now it never would. Natural causes. It's what everyone keeps saying, but Isabel knows better. She knows there's more to it. There's something more here. And that's episode 1. Isabel Voss is our lead, and a few things about her to better understand her. She once had a dream about a car accident the night before it happened. She was in the passenger seat of her car, looking down at water pouring in. 4 hours later, when she was headed home from the beach, her best friend took over driving her car, and they were run off the road. When Isabel looked down at the floorboard, it was flooded with water from the ditch. She remembered the dream and understood it for the first time. A few years later, she had a recurring dream with numbers. She tried to solve the puzzle, figure out what they were. She even played the lottery. She used these numbers weeks later to correctly predict the date her son would be born 6 months before he arrived. She wasn't shy about this prediction or her insight, and she saw how unsettled others became when she was right. So she's learned to keep things to herself. She's become more private about what she knows and how she knows things. And over the years, she has developed an almost supernatural intuition. Almost is important in that phrase because Isabel is not supernatural. She's not a psychic. She's a woman with a gift, a sixth sense that she inherited. She is extraordinarily tuned into the world around her and to herself. She listens to her inner voice, but she does it privately because she knows how this sounds. She's caring and empathetic. She's independent. She is extremely stubborn, but she's fiercely devoted to the people that she loves. And right now, she's more alone than she's ever been. She didn't even pack a bag when she left. She's 500 miles from home, standing alone in her mother's house, trying to solve a mystery using the only tool she has, a gift that she can't even begin to explain to anyone else. Before I can tell you about the characters who are present in Red Skies, I need to tell you about the one who isn't, Veronica Voss. She died before the first scene ended, and she's never absent. She's in every room Isabel walks into. She's in every drawer that Isabel opens. And it's not just like this for Isabel. She's in every she's in every conversation that Warren has ever chosen not to have. She's in all of Diane's regrets, the relationship that they were never able to build in the same way that Veronica and Isabel had. And Diane wanted that. She wanted to love her the same way, but she just never could. She wasn't capable. And now she's realizing she never can. Veronica shapes the entire show, but from the other side of it. She was 63 years old. She bought a dream house in St. Clair County, Michigan, with the man who was her soulmate. They were married. They put in a pond. They fed the deer, the birds. It was the perfect life for them after working hard for all those years. She had 2 daughters that were grown, and she had spent her entire life protecting them, especially Diane, even sometimes protecting her from herself. When her husband died the day after Easter 3 years ago, she grieved longer and harder than anyone had expected, but she had finally come through it. She was on the other side. Her daughter Isabel had spent a year caring for her after he died, and then another 6 months when she broke her foot and was bedridden and needed surgery. After Isabel left the last time, they started making plans, a cruise after Christmas, and then soon after, a fresh start again. They would move somewhere warmer. Veronica wanted to move to Virginia, but Isabel needed a change after a rough few years. Veronica understood this better than anyone else. They were going somewhere new soon. Isabel just needed to finish school. Veronica had already started going through her things in the house, getting the property ready to sell. It was too painful to remain there, and she made a pact with her daughter. They were both ready to finally be running towards something instead of running away, living instead of surviving. But she died on her 63rd birthday. It was too soon. It was before any of those plans happened. She appears through flashbacks, through objects, through Warren's quiet observations. Isabel discovers her mother had a secret that she carried her whole life, a father who is not the same as the man listed on her birth certificate. And there's a family somewhere that doesn't know that Veronica, Isabel, or Diane exist. Veronica took that secret with her, and several more that will soon come to light. She's the heart of the show. And every show needs a ticking clock. In Red Skies, that clock has a name. Veronica's daughter, Diane, Isabel's younger sister. She's 37 years old. She also lives in Michigan, 30 minutes from her mother, but she rarely sees her. She's the opposite of Isabel in every way possible, including her relationship with Veronica. Isabel once drove 500 miles to pick Veronica up from the hospital because Diane refused to change plans with her friends or even delay them for an hour. I want to be careful about how I describe Diane because she's not a villain in the traditional sense. She loved Veronica, but in her own way. She has a daughter that she loves, a boyfriend that she pretends to hate. They're planning to get married soon. Diane likes animals more than she likes people, and she even runs a local moms group where she genuinely helps others. But it's more about the recognition than the help she provides. Diane is a person who takes pleasure in others' pain. She always has. But it's more from a place of jealousy, not necessarily evil. She lacks self awareness. She's emotional and she's reactive. She's spent her entire life learning to disguise her bad intentions. And she does it so convincingly that most people don't realize it until it's too late. Her worst trait is that she's a pathological liar in a way that doesn't seem to make sense. Think Amy Dunn from Gone Girl, except Diane's not quite as smart. She's the reason Isabel's happy to be working completely alone in Michigan, although Diane wouldn't help her anyway. 6 months before Veronica died, Isabel and Veronica took DNA tests together for fun. Veronica never fully explained everything before she died, but what she did explain was that Diane was never to know. If Diane finds out, she will find that family. She'll show up on their doorstep, and nobody can be entirely sure what she tells them when she gets there. Isabel isn't just protecting that secret for her mother, for privacy. She's protecting it because she knows what Diane will do with it. And this alone is an engine that could run for seasons. Diane and Isabel have a complex relationship, and we see some of the same dynamics found in the show Bloodline: the manipulation, the conflict, the enabling, the abusive behaviors. Diane often manipulates Isabel using events of their childhood against her to justify her action. Diane's inability to move on traps her in a cycle of resentment and revenge. It causes Isabel herself to struggle with her own resentment. And although Isabel is not like John from Bloodline, much like John did with Danny, she wants to believe that good exists somewhere inside Diane, and she often gives her a pass. Diane's tendency to rewrite history only adds to their complex relationship. And Diane is really the scorched earth character, and Isabel is left attempting to maintain family appearances. And like Bloodline, this family has secrets and dynamics that create suspense. Every episode has a slow burn revelation, and that always comes just as it's ending. Marcus is calling Isabel every night, asking when she's coming home. He's Isabella's partner, her boyfriend for the last decade. He's 40, he's intelligent, capable, almost completely devoted. They've had some problems, but things are better now, or they were. The new problem that's growing isn't his past infidelity, although it still haunts the present. They will begin to struggle because his version of love runs on logic. Isabel's doesn't. Marcus wants, no, Marcus needs evidence, concrete proof. He needs a timeline that makes sense. He genuinely cannot believe something he cannot actually verify. The fact that Isabel left home in the middle of the night based on her intuition to drive 500 miles without telling him is the one detail that tells you everything you need to know about their relationship. He's the mirror, and Isabel has to decide whether she can keep looking into it. He represents every institution, every doctor, every authority figure who has ever said, "Show me the proof." The show asks whether love survives, that fundamental difference in how two people experience what is real. That question, it can run for seasons without an easy answer. Warren, every character in Red Skies has a relationship to proof, to evidence, to what counts as knowledge. Marcus needs proof before he believes anything. Diane weaponizes proof and information that she shouldn't have. Isabel knows things she can't explain. And then there's Warren. Warren is a 63-year-old Ojibwa man. He's a widower and has lived on the property adjacent to Veronica his entire life. He's the only person in St. Clair who actually knew Veronica, but not well, in the way that neighbors who share a fence line accumulate knowledge of each other without meaning to. He noticed when her lights were on late, when she stopped tending the pond. He saw her struggle. He saw who came to help her and who didn't. He noticed things he never said anything about because Veronica valued her privacy, and Warren respects that in a way that people do when they spent a lifetime watching others misread them. When Isabel first arrives, Warren recognizes something in her. It's the same quality that Veronica had of knowing things without being able to say how. He will become Isabel's reluctant ally. because he can't watch her be wrong about something that he knows is right. Warren will become a viewer favorite. He carries the show's theme in his bones. Some knowledge doesn't come from proof, it comes from paying attention long enough. I want to talk about why this show matters beyond the mystery. Red Skies enters the cultural conversation in three unique spaces. The first is grief, the grief of losing someone you love, the grief of losing someone who was your closest friend, the person who understood you before you understood yourself. Isabel and Diane have lost a mother. Warren recently lost a wife. We watch them all deal with grief in their own ways. Television often handles grief in different ways, and either by sanitizing it or making it a motivational plot device. And Red Skies does neither of these. Veronica's death is the gravitational pull of the entire show. Instead of becoming motivated by her grief, Isabel becomes grief, moving through the house, opening drawers, trying to make sense of what she can't yet fully understand. The second is women's intuition. Isabel knows things before she can prove them, and the show takes this seriously by putting it on screen. The third is hidden identity. Consumer DNA testing has changed families forever. Genealogy is used to solve crime now, and people are discovering fathers in children that they never knew about. Secrets that survive decades can now be unraveled overnight by a saliva test. These are not rare stories anymore. They are happening, but nobody has put them at the center of a compelling television drama yet. Red Skies does all three simultaneously and then some. It touches on the way we present ourselves to the world, the curated version of self versus the truth. We also see family tension, and beyond that, struggles that we face within our chosen relationships. And the show doesn't fully answer any of the questions that it raises, but it stages a debate. And why should Red Skies get made? Sharp Objects meets Ozark. It's two proven streaming successes with devoted audiences. And we already know that this works. One new show that lives in the space between them. The audience is already there, they exist. The production model is contained, a single primary location, intimate ensemble cast, no expensive set pieces, there's no location jumping, and Red Skies is financially sustainable in exactly the way that Netflix needs right now, moving back toward content that makes economic sense. The serialized structure is built for platform distribution, 8 episodes per season, designed for binge viewing, but constructed so each episode ends without resolution. It leaves something unresolved. The mystery deepens every season without exhausting itself. And the topical resonance is immediate. Grief, women's intuition, consumer DNA testing, hidden family identity. The cultural relevance for this show already exists. This is where I want to give you 2 words: inherited secrets. If you remember nothing else about my pitch, remember those 2 words. One of the things Netflix needs right now is content that runs, not a limited series, not 8 hours of prestige television that bring people in. They binge for a weekend and they cancel their subscription on Monday. Something that builds investment across seasons and gives subscribers a reason to stay. Season 1 is The Arrival. Isabel drives through the night. Veronica is gone. The DNA results surface. There's a family somewhere that doesn't know that they exist. Warren starts paying attention. Diane doesn't know yet. In season 2, the other family, Isabel finds them. They're not what she expected. Isabel learns that Veronica knew more than she ever said. Running underneath it all is Marcus, his past infidelity, their new problems. The questions get louder, and he's patient, but now he's struggling. His love for Isabel is real, but so is his need for evidence. And the two things begin to pull in opposite directions. By season 3, we have the detonation. Diane finds out. Marcus has to decide. Does he believe in Isabel? Does he believe in evidence? By season 3, these are clearly different things. And season 4 is the signal. It's where we see Isabel's intuition grow, pull her in a new direction. We see who she's becoming. The show expands beyond the original mystery without losing its core. Marcus is still there, or maybe he isn't. Either way, Isabel keeps going. And season 5 is the reckoning. Isabel has to decide if her gift is something that she trusts completely or something she's hiding behind. And we finally get the answer to the question that we asked in episode 1. 5 seasons later, we know the cost. The engine of the show starts with a mystery, but the real engine is Isabel's relationship to her own knowing, and that never runs out. I want to step back from the pitch for just a moment. There's a lot of truth in my pitch. It's based on truth. And in a way, I'm Isabel Voss. I've driven 500 miles completely unplanned without packing a bag based on a feeling. I've been right about things I can't explain. There are dreams I've had that came true. I've used intuition to know things that I didn't want to or I wasn't supposed to. Understand what it means to talk to your mother every single day and have that suddenly change. I've made plans for the future and I know what it feels like when it's taken away. The images of St. Clair, that's her home. Veronica was her middle name. Warren was a town that I lived in and grew up in. Red was her favorite color. And when I was young, a red sky in the morning meant we weren't going out on the lake. Red Skies is a show that I needed and couldn't find. I was a woman who couldn't drive fast enough and drove for hours based on a bad feeling. It was my mother that deserved more time. A story about what we inherit from the people we lose, their secrets, their silences, their way of knowing. It's all based in truth. And that's why it will resonate. Red Skies, the world of the show, is larger than one story. The St. Clair is a place where one woman came to disappear. And there are other stories in St. Clair. And there always are in places like this. And the conversation that the show starts doesn't end with one season or even 5 seasons. Every family has a Veronica, someone who carries something along. Every family has a Diane, the person whose damage disguises itself as love. And every family has secrets. Red Skies begins with Isabel, but it belongs to anyone who's ever known something they couldn't prove, anyone who has ever tried to hide things in their past or run from their past. And that's everyone. That's your audience, everyone.